Estamos en Austin, Texas, y vamos a visitar la prestigiosa academia PGC, que se encarga de realizar campamentos de básquetbol a lo largo de todos los Estados Unidos, con el objetivo de formar jugadores con una alta capacidad en su toma de decisiones y gran confianza y seguridad en sí mismos. Pero no les platico más, vamos a verlos.
Hello everybody, today we are with Kyle Wright, that is the main coach of PGC Camp, or pre-point guard in Austin, Texas. It's a pleasure to be with you, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll talk a little bit about some ideas about what is PGC and to have more perspective in what they are doing here. So I have seen NBA players that participated in PGC Camp. What kind of experience they got it?
I think it just kind of the same experience that everyone who did with PGC is just overall learning how to develop as a player, but then also as a person as well. So leadership qualities, basketball concepts over, just dribbling, shooting, learning how to create advantages, different things like that. And just the importance of how to really show up and be, become the best version of yourself. Why that's important. How to actually do that. How to lead a teammate, how to lead yourself, how to lead an actual whole team. Different things like that. So, as far as everybody's experience, I think transformation would be a good word to use.
Okay, so yeah, it depends about every person that you are going to receive different knowledge with your experience, but at the end it's something that impacts their career, no?
Yes, most definitely. And I think it's with that for the athletes, but also, the staff as well. It's a different type of energy that you're around. It's a different environment, an environment around a lot of like-minded people who want to get better and want to grow themselves, and then also you learn about each other, and you share laughs and different things like that, and then you help each other grow. So I think for everybody involved, it's kind of transformational.
Nice. In PGC there are 3 levels, that is point guard, playmaker, and scoring college. You make the pre-point guard, that is a course before to enter to the main 3 levels. What kind of topics do you see in pre-point guard?
It's basically, when you're working with the point guard preps, it's 4th grade, so it's real foundation building years, and so that's exactly what we're doing is building the foundation to their game, helping them fall in love or deep in love with the game of basketball, but then also kind of giving them the basic fundamentals of basketball in terms of creating advantages, trying to build the foundation of their shot from their feet. We have different footwork focuses and different things like that. Learning how to play out of advantages, just share the ball, play good basketball the right way. And so, like I said, any type of foundation building concepts within the game of basketball, that's what we're teaching here at the point guard prep, and allowing them to actually feel and think the game of basketball and not just play it.
Yeah, in that period of time, the players are kids, no?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first step to know what is happening in basketball. And like you said, it's a good idea to give an introduction in where they are going to love the game, not only train.
Yeah, I think it's big. This is something like, as an athlete growing up, I didn't know what PGC was. But some of these same concepts, we've been talking with and teaching the college guys and different things like that, as far as my own past coaching experience. And so it's high level things. Basketball is a really, really simple game that we overcomplicate. And if you can give these athletes these concepts and different things like that, and they have a really good understanding at that young age, they're going to be ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah. Great. everybody knows that the best basketball player are in America, and the competition here is super hard. So why thousands of players decide to come to PGC?
I think it's just players. It's kind of two types of players. So you may get your athletes that already know that they love the game of basketball and they want to get better. They want to pursue that. And there might be some athletes that really need to work on like the leadership qualities, and the habits and different things like that. I'm a firm believer of growing as a person. You definitely will still elevate yourself as a player. And part of the reason why is because of the habits that we talk about and that we go over. Learning how to be disciplined, hold yourself accountable so you can hold other people accountable. Different things like that. Like if that's your focus, if that's what you feel like you need to improve on, that will help you off in life. Beyond basketball, on top of basketball. PGC is supposed to be.
So it's a whole vision of a person, not only a basketball player.
Yeah, not just the athlete. Not just the athlete.
That's super important, no? Because sometimes we see athletes in a high performance that the values that they have are not, they are not a good leaders for everybody. And it's, I think, one target that one academy or a coach needs to give to the players.
Yeah.
The values, the integrity of the player, and the whole vision of how they need to be in the life.
Yeah, I think it's huge because, and I actually, I kind of talk about this throughout some of my sessions, but, everybody has potential, based on our athletic abilities, physical traits, and different things that we have. I'm not going to have the same basketball potential, me being 5'10" as somebody that's like 6'10", but there's going to get a point in everybody's journey where your traits or your skill set isn't enough. And you're gonna have to have a separator that's gonna separate you from the competition. And it's gonna have to be a personality trait or a characteristic that you have, whether it's your work ethic, whether it's the joy, your perspective that you bring to every environment that you're in. Maybe it's the way that you just see life that kind of helps you with your advantage. There's going to be something that you're going to need to separate yourself beyond your physical and skill set traits. And so, yeah, like you said, that's why it's huge. It's huge.
Okay, yeah, super huge. This question is connected with the last one. What is the main difference that can be found in PGC Camp in relation to other camps in America?
I think it's the real intentional curriculum as far as helping develop that person. I don't know of too many basketball camps that really focus on the person as much as the player. Actually connecting and learning about the athletes who are attending the session and connecting before coaching, different things like that. I would say that's probably the biggest difference between PGC and other camps.
And also that is a big job for a coach now, because you don't need to be only focusing to train the skills for the player. You need to see more things, and to do that kind of things you need to have a lot of energy, you need to have a lot of passion.
Yeah.
It's impossible only to do those things without something that is born inside you to share to the people and to try to grow them.
Yeah, you definitely, and then with us being, kind of a big organization, you get different, phases of athletes in different parts of the journey, and so you got to be able to meet everybody where they're at. You got to be able to coach with grace. You got to be able to see, because you never know what somebody's going through at home. You never know what they're dealing with, what they've been dealing with throughout their life before we get them for a week. And so, just kind of keep that perspective in mind while you're attending these sessions, or while I'm coaching these sessions, and just continue to be grateful and get to know, connect before you coach type of deal.
Yeah. And now I would like to talk a little bit more about your experience as a coach. the things that you can share to the players and so on. As a coach, what do you consider the key characteristic a player needs to become a professional?
As far as characteristic goes, I have a great example because my roommate, for 4 years at Maryland Baylor, he's currently played 2 years overseas already in Denmark and Spain, and so as far as characteristics that he has, I would say discipline, work ethic is huge. Finding a routine, and not everybody's different. For me personally, I was like a morning workout type of guy. I love that. He was obviously, I like getting in, like waking up early, maybe 6 a.m. 5:30 to get to the gym at 6 a.m. He'll get his workouts in at 9 and at night. I necessarily didn't like working out at night just because I get up early in the morning. So you got to figure out like what works for you, figure out a schedule, figure out a routine, and be disciplined to that. But then you still have to, with the hours that you put in, you still have to put in like, it's a certain type of work. It's got to be intense. It's got to be intentional. It's got to be, focused. You can't just go in there and just get up shots with no purpose because, it's going to show in your reps, in the games, different things like that. So I would say discipline, the work ethic, and then also just like faith. Great players, they have a sense in delusion where like they think really highly of themselves. And now delusion, when your work ethic doesn't match your delusion, then you just have the persona of being delusional. But all these great players, like, they may overcome, like, they may have a little bit of self-doubt, but like they think highly of themselves. They believe that they can, do hard things, be professional. Because it's only a small percentage, be high-level college players, be All-Americans, realistically want to play in the NBA. Like you gotta think like that, and you can't let other people cast their limitations that they have for themselves. You can't let them put that on you. And so I would say they have a nice sense of delusion as far as how highly they think of themselves, but then also that work ethic and that discipline matches their mindset, and then that's when you really have a great player with great quality traits.
Yeah, but like you said, it's a good word to say faith, because at the end, you can have discipline and different things, but at the end you need to believe that in one moment those things are going to work with you.
Yeah, and it's delusion until it's the reality. People say, oh, you're crazy, you're delusional until, you consistently, stay disciplined to the work ethic, to your intentional schedule, and eventually, that delusion is reality. And then it's like, oh wow, how do you do it? And it's like, I put in, hours and hours and hours over a course of years and years and years. So.
Yeah, the people only see that something happens suddenly, but it's not true. You work a long time, long period to get those things.
Unseen hours.
Yeah. And this question is very important for me because in Mexico you can see sometimes with a kid with 8 or 9 years old, and they can be super specialized in to have a good dribble or some skills, but later nothing happened with them, and it's some difference between what is the correct age to start a specialization or to create more serious training. What do you think is the correct age to start a specialization and more serious training?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think it's really interesting. Obviously, like there is no absolute. I think the age could vary, but I do think as far as like specialized, like at a young age, you gotta play. You just gotta play basketball. You have to get used to creating the habits. You gotta fall in love with it. You gotta try to develop instincts with the game of basketball. A lot of times, you can do all the stationary ball handling funny stuff. You can do all that, but if you don't have any instincts as far as whenever you go out there and play, 1v1 or 2v2 or 3v3, and you get in 5v5 setting, if you have no instincts, like you're not going to be able to execute, and you're not going to be able to translate, those specialized, skill work. You're not going to be able to translate to a live in-game setting. So I never want to get too specialized early. I think when an athlete has a really good understanding and good instincts of the game of basketball, and they really, like, as far as their knowledge, the way they view the game, if they know, the whys behind the whats between what it is that they're doing, they're able to kind of, they think the game and feel the game a little bit better. That's when you can get a little bit more specialized. And so for every athlete, like, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But I do think, while they're younger, I wouldn't just go to just super specialized, because they got to play. Like, you got to be able to play. And
they become robots, no?
yeah, we don't want robots. Basketball is not a robotic, game. I may say something as a coach, and the defense is gonna say something different. As far as they're gonna need a different answer than what I told you. Are you gonna do what I say and end up being wrong, or are you gonna kind of react to what the game is asking you that question? Are you gonna answer that? And that you answer that with your instincts. It's not necessarily what the coach says. And so, I think it just ultimately comes down to what their understanding is of the game and their feel and the instincts that they have. If that's at a good enough level, then you can start getting a little bit more specialized.
Now, right now, something popped in my mind that how you can do those things to create that instincts in the players. Because sometimes the problem is that the parents, they want to win.
Yeah.
The environment, they want that the team win. And if they don't win, they think that you are not doing a correct work.
Yeah.
So how you can create those instincts without that pressure?
Yeah, I'm not a result-oriented guy. I'm not, I'm really, I focus a lot on habits. And, my AAU coach in high school, he developed us a certain type of way as far as within playing like summer league and going to tournaments and stuff like that. It wasn't for wins and losses. For me, one of the things that I struggled with early in my high school career is just like doubt and not wanting to shoot the ball and I guess not really necessarily scared to shoot, but like anytime you see a contest, you pump fake, you don't really realize what's open. When we played like summer league tournaments, it's like we're not playing to win, we're playing for me to develop a certain type of role and get ready or prepare myself for a certain type of role that I need to do at least in high school to be able to play college basketball. And he had specific plans for kind of everybody in our organization, a part of our team. And so, with that, like it was never like a win and loss type of deal. Now the wins came because the habits were right. And if your habits right, you're gonna more times than not, you're gonna get the result that you want. But if you're result oriented, especially like at a younger age, like winning a middle school tournament or an AAU high school tournament, it does not matter in your career. It doesn't. When you get to college, after 7 years of college, you're probably gonna forget about it anyway. As soon as you become an adult, like it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
So like, it's tough. It's tough. I think it's something that it needs to change from the perspective and the mindset from the parents to some of the coaches that do just focus on wins. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's good for development of just as far as our development in America.
And like you said, at the end, it's only a small amount that the players that are going to be, or they are going to reach the elite level, or they will become professional players.
Yeah.
So you need to be focused more in the experience that you are giving to the kids during their career as a player.
Most definitely. I would agree.
Well, Coach, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your knowledge, for your time. I know that this week has been so hard for you with all the energy that you impress in in the week, in the trainings. It's incredible. But thank you, Coach.
Nah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me. You know, it was a fun week. Anytime that you're just being around the game of basketball, being around people who want to learn and want to get better. Just gotta give it your all every day, and be joyous like you're doing it. I've been doing something that I didn't want to do. So, this basketball stuff is I love it and it's easy. I'd rather be doing this than something else. So, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Coach.
you, Coach. Appreciate you.
Well, see you the next time.